Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Today I'm participating in the Ellen Hudson holiday release blog hop, and I created this cool ghost pop-up card. So here's the outside, and when you open it up, the ghosts sort of unfold an accordion, and then the pop-up is behind there to kind of push the ghosts out so that they can open and close really easily. So first I'm going to show you the pieces I'm going to be using today. There's a photo on my blog with all the measurements on it if you want to go there to check things out. But I've got a gray 8 1/4 by 5 1/4, white 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, gray 5 1/4 by 4, and a strip of printer paper that's 9 by 3/4 of an inch. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my Got Candy stamp set, and I'm going to be using the ghost and also the die cut that goes with it. And I've got some archival ink, and I'm going to be stamping 10 of these ghosts on here. Now I'm using the archival ink because it dries really quickly, and I don't want any smearing, and I'm going to be putting it through my big shot, and I don't want the plates getting any ink on them, so I just need a fast drying ink. Now here's the coordinating die, so I'm going to put it on each of these ghosts and cut them out individually. For my 9 by 3/4 of an inch strip of printer paper, I'm going to score it every 3/4 of an inch. And the reason why I'm using printer paper here is because when I fold all this up, it can be pretty thick, and if you use cardstock, it's just going to be too bulky for the card. Just have this big kind of bulk in the middle with all these folds. So I found it easier to just use a piece of printer paper. I'm not sure I mentioned it, but I did use printer paper also for the ghosts. Okay, now it's time to fold this. I'm going to fold my first 3/4 inch fold to the back. And I'll take some glue dots. I found that it was just the easiest adhesive to use here. And I'm just going to take that next 3/4 of an inch piece here, and I'm going to put a glue dot on it, and then I'll put my ghost right on top of there. And 3/4 of an inch is just the perfect size to fit these ghosts. And now I'm going to fold my next one. It's going to be like an accordion, so I'm going to fold it in the opposite direction. And then I'll open it back up, and I'll put the next glue dot on here in the middle of my 3/4 of an inch section. And then I'll put my next ghost, and I'm going to alternate kind of the height of these ghosts just to add a little bit of interest. But it'll be right next to it in between the two score lines. And so then I'll go back and fold the next one in the opposite direction. And I'm making sure that all my ghosts are on the same side of this strip. So I fold it down, and then I'll open it back up, and then I'll put the glue dot on there and put the ghost on there, and I'm just going to repeat this all the way down for all 10 of these ghosts. And again, because I've used printer paper for them, it's not going to be too bulky. So here I'm putting the last one on, and then my final 3/4 of an inch fold will be toward the back, the same as what I started with. So I'm going to really press these together, and when I open it up, you'll see it's going to be hard to open and close, which is why I'm going to add that pop-up to the card. But I've got the 2 tabs on the outside that I'm going to adhere to the card base. Next, I'm going to decorate the inside of the card, and I just have some bats and some sentiments from the set, and I'm going to put some Versamark ink on there, and I'll put some black embossing powder for these bats, and it really makes them pop out. And I'll heat them. I'm going to do 3 of them so it's nice and glossy. And then I'm going to take this Boo sentiment, and I'm going to put one on each side of the panel here in Versamark ink, and these I'm going to emboss with some white powder. So I'll sprinkle some white powder on there and heat it to set it. And then finally I decided to add the Happy Halloween sentiment to the bottom in the white embossing powder. So I'll sprinkle that, and then I'll heat it to set it. Now once I've got that all decorated, it's time to cut the pop-up. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure the center point. So this is 5 1/4. My center point is 2 5/8. And then I'm going to measure 1/4 of an inch above and 1/4 of an inch below this center mark. So that's going to create a 1/2 of an inch here. And I'm going to measure 1 1/4 inches from the top mark out, and 1 1/4 inches from the bottom mark out. So I'll lift it up so you can see here. I've got my center point. I've got my 1/4 inch above, going 1 1/4 inch out, and then the same thing below. Now I'm going to use a large scissor because I find it's easier to do this cut in one swipe. And I'm just going to cut from the bottom to that 1 1/4 inch out. And I'll take my fingers and just really press down securely, just folding it. And then I'll unfold it, put it back where it was, and I'll open up the card. And with my left finger, I'm going to push it forward, and my right ones, I'm going to hold it back. So I'll pull this pop-up forward, and then I'll fold it to the inside of the card and really press down. And this is what's going to create the piece that actually pushes the ghosts out and it allows them to open and close easily. I'm going to measure where my ghosts are going to go. It's 7/8 of an inch from the right hand side of the gray piece. So I'm making sure that my ruler is centered with my pop-up, and I'm measuring 7/8 of an inch from both sides. Now it's time to adhere the ghost to the pop-up. So I'm going to take my midpoint, 5 ghosts in, because there's 10, and I'm going to fold it right on that midpoint. I'm going to lay it flat on the left side of the crease of my pop-up, and then I'll take a piece of surgical tape. This is just some very thin tape, and I'm going to secure the ghost to the right side of the pop-up. And my surgical tape is just thick enough to cover the area of the pop-up. And I'm going to cover that a little later. So once I've got my right side secured, I'm just going to flip my ghosts over, get another piece of tape, and secure my ghosts to the left side of the pop-up. Because my ghost strip is white, you're not really going to see this surgical tape. But for the gray, you do kind of see it, and this is optional. You don't have to cover it up. But I cut a few pieces of gray cardstock to cover it up, and I just used a tape runner. And I cut them, remember our pop-up is 1 1/4 inches, so I cut them about 1 1/8, maybe a little bit less. I cut 2 of them, 1 for each side, so I'm just going to cover them up with tape runner. So you can see how nice and secure this is in the middle. Now, to hold the right and left sides down on this little tab that comes out, I'm going to also use glue dots because they're really super strong. I'm going to use 4 of them. So I'm going to put 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And I like to use a paper piercer so that I can put them in exactly the place that I want them. So I'll fold this over, and remember we made that 7/8 of an inch mark on the inside, and I'm going to line up the edge of my little tab with that mark. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing with the other side, putting the 4 glue dots. I'll fold it over and then line it up with my 7/8 of an inch mark and press it down. Now the first time you close this, you'll have to sort of arrange the ghosts to make sure they fold correctly. But once you do it one time and you really press it together, then they have no problem opening and closing on their own without any problems. So here we go, see, open, close. And it works perfectly. Now I'm going to work on the front of the card. I've got a speech bubble die that comes with the same set, and I'll cut that out of white cardstock, and then I'll grab these 3 size stars out of the set, and I'm going to randomly stamp them on this gray cardstock. I always like to do the large one first, and then I'll fill in with some of the medium ones, and this is Versamark ink, and I'm trying to get more stars at the top and sort of have them fade out as they go toward the bottom. And then with my smallest star, I'll fill in the most stars to just fill in all those gaps. I'll sprinkle it with some silver embossing powder, and I'll heat it to set it, so I get a nice subtle look with the silver on gray. And then I'll take my speech bubble, and I'm going to stamp this with some archival ink, the Eek stamp, which also comes with the set, and then I'll adhere that to the silver embossed panel. So it kind of looks like they're screaming from the inside of the card. Now I'll adhere this with some tape runner to the front panel. Now this front panel is the Nina 8.5 by 5.5 that I've scored in the center. And now I'm going to put my pop-up in the middle. So I'm put a lot of adhesive on the back side, And then I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm also going to hold up my white base. And that's because I want to make sure you don't want to adhere it when it's flat. You want to adhere it when it's folded. Because if you don't, when you fold it, it'll get all crunched up. So you want it to open and close easily. And so the trick is to adhere it while it's folded. So now that I've got one side done, I like to do one side at a time. I'll fold the gray of the other side, have the adhesive on there, and then I'll close the lid. And that'll make sure that it has a nice, comfortable close. And then when you pop it up, or when you open it up, it'll work fine. I decided I wanted some exclamation points after the boo in the middle, so I just added them with my white gel pen. And it looked like it was just part of the stamp because I had white embossed the boo earlier. And that is the card for today. So here it is opening up. You see the outside, and then the ghosts line up just right with my pop-up pushing them forward, and then they stay forward because of the pop-up, and open and close easily because I used the printer paper and not really thick cardstock. So anyway, that is the card for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.